Mr. Garrett of New Jersey.
The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 4 minutes.
And I thank the chair, And before I give my remarks, I just want to say in response that I believe the chairman said that he is not opposed to all regulation. I think he said he's in favor of regulation, but make sure that it is smart and appropriate regulation. At least that's my position as well. And understand, too, to the gentleman's point, that even when this legislation is passed, the SEC still will have significant authority. It will still have its enforcement division, will still have its new asset management unit, which has recently recruited industry professionals with asset management experience to serve as specialists in this unit to do the investigations that the gentleman wants to have continued, and it will continue even after the passage of this legislation. And so with that said, I want to again thank the chairman. I want to thank the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Hurt, and also the gentleman there is from Connecticut, Mr. Himes, as well, for their hard work on this very important legislation, as well as all of our co-sponsors on both sides of the aisle. And so for that reason, I'm pleased to support H.R. 1105. And do make no mistake about it, this is bipartisan legislation, and it is all about helping small businesses and helping to create more jobs in this country. You know, today, more than 17,700 companies backed by private equity employ over 7.5 million people. In my home state of New Jersey alone, 597 private equity-backed companies support more than 377,000 workers, while the New Jersey Division of Pension and Benefits has invested billions on behalf of retirees and private equity firms. Hopefully all those facts give you the facts you need to know how much is important to us. And yet, despite their long track record supporting small business nationwide, the Dodd-Frank Act has imposed enormous burdens on private equity firms, forcing most fund advisors to spend literally millions of dollars complying now with new SEC registration and reporting requirements. So these burdensome regulations no doubt crimp the flow of what is much needed investment dollars to America's small businesses. And so there's little or no evidence that they are needed to promote the stability of our financial system or to protect investors. So unlike, say, federal housing policy and the government-sponsored enterprises like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, private equity did not cause the financial crisis and is not and never has been a source of systemic risk. As former SEC Chair Mary Shapiro admitted back in 2011, she said, private equity funds have less potential to pose systemic risk than any other type of private funds. Indeed, if the SEC is so concerned about the systemic risk of private equity funds, their recent examinations of private equity advisors certainly don't show it. As Chair White recently said, neither the SEC examination staff nor the Division of Investment Management, quote, has conducted examinations of advisors to private funds based primarily on systemic risk. It also said SEC examiners, quote, have not to date reviewed systemic risk issues as part of their examinations of private funds. Thirdly, none of the advisors of private funds that withdrew their registration had systemic risk in the marketplace. And so now we must ask ourselves this question. Do we really want the SEC, already saddled with a multitude of unfinished, non-germane Dodd-Frank mandates, expending valuable resources on risks that don't even exist? In addition, because only sophisticated investors may invest in these private equity funds, the need, if you think about it, to protect investors in this case is more limited compared to other areas of the market. So while I wholeheartedly support the SEC's mission to protect investors, the agency with limited resources should be devoted first and foremost to protecting the less sophisticated, the retail mom and pop investors. They need the most protection. You know, it was Paul Kondrasky who was in Congress back when the Dodd-Frank went through. He said, I, for one, could care less about high-wealth individuals who want to contribute their money to a group of investors. If they want to take the shot of losing it, it does not really affect the rest of society. And it also bears mentioning that this legislation in no way alters the existing tools of the SEC already has to prevent and punish fraud in the private equity industry for the benefit of sophisticated investors and the broader economy. And with that, I urge support of H.R. 1105 at a time when most small businesses continue to have difficulty getting credit and need to grow. Passing this bipartisan legislation, common sense legislation, should be a no-brainer.
Gentleman from Massachusetts.